I got mine. We went to January.
Let's call to order.
Well, we missed each other.
Let's have the November 4th workshop begin. And we start with the roll call. Joanne?
Nancy Kupka.
Here.
Julia Beckman.
Here.
Mike Davenport.
Here.
Keith Mattoon.
Here.
Terry Pavasich. Here. Rick Pavanato.
Here.
Okay, let's all stand for the... We have a quorum. Mrs. Boyle will not be here with us tonight.
Right.
But we have a quorum tonight. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got extra room over here.
announcers.
Spread out. Yeah. It's all good. Put the feet up. I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
No, I get the wrong idea.
Talk later.
Okay, we're going to start with students' perspectives. North High School.
Hi, I'm Kristen Borman, and I'm the assistant principal at North for activities and programs. And we have some students here tonight that would like to share some information about some of the clubs that we have at North. We have 45 clubs that we're really proud of, and one of the clubs that we've had in the past, our World Languages Club, was taking on, it was getting a lot of attention and interest from the students in our building, and so we ended up looking at 3 specific clubs that we ended up splitting off into for this year: our French club, our Spanish club, and our German club. And tonight we have 2 of our clubs here to present information on some of the activities they've been involved with, our German club and our Spanish club. So at this point, we'll introduce our German club first, and they'll talk a little bit about their program.
In English.
All right. I'm Trevor Kropp. I'm a junior at North. This is my brother, Tyler Kropp. He's also a junior, of course, because we're twins. And
Joe would never have
Couldn't
guessed.
tell.
Oh, I'm Emily Hurst. I'm a senior at North. I am president of the German Club. Some activities I'm involved in is softball and swimming, and I'm a link crew member at North.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Read that for us.
Can you guys move a little closer to the microphone so they pick you up for...
More mic.
All right.
That's good. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. German club. There wasn't a German club last year, and it was kind of like just a world language club. So it was kind of like, yeah, maybe I won't do that. I didn't really want to do it. It was just kind of like all the languages, and there's an overwhelming number of Spanish-speaking people. And so I just didn't want to do it. But this year, there's a separate German club, and I was like, that's awesome, because I love German. Kind of a German enthusiast. So we have, with separate German club, it makes it a lot easier to give out information to people that are part of the specific German club. So last year would be like, oh yeah, the teacher would say that there's some event going on, and that's all I'd really get. There wouldn't really be that much information about it, so that wasn't that great. But this year, now that this German club, it's a lot easier to send out emails about the events and stuff, and just better for people that like German. And do you want to talk about this? Okay. Yeah, me and my brother and some other people, really not that many people went on this, but we went to immersion weekend in Lake Geneva, and it's basically a retreat on the shore of Lake Geneva, and they only speak German to you, and it's quite an experience because you get in that mode of automatic translation where it's just like it's fun to speak in German to all the other people. It's not just like, oh yeah, they're talking about stuff. It's like you're talking in German the whole time because you kind of get in the mode of German and thinking about how to say what you want to say in German automatically, so that, well, it just makes you better at German.
Another thing the German club helps the German students with is the cultural aspect of it. That you can get from going to these events. One event that really focuses on that is the Christkindlmarkt,
I love that place.
German Christmas market in Chicago. We bus down there with a group of kids, and we visit all the markets, and we look at all the different cultural things that they have, which includes food, handcrafted woodwork, clothing, all sorts of things. And another thing about that is the Austrian chef. It's really great to have, someone that really knows what they're talking about. Like, help with teaching us about the culture and how to make apple strudel. So that's good.
Okay, so an overview of all the events. We do about an event a month. The last month we had Oktoberfest. So it was a low cost. It was like $5. You can come and you had dinner, so you could have a bratwurst. And I think we did have apple strudel there. I think that was our dessert. We had apple juice too. Then we sang German songs, and we had it like broadcasted so everyone could try and understand the German, even if you weren't German, because our German foreign exchange students were in during that. So some of their host family came,
Nice.
and they couldn't understand German, but they had fun. We tie-dyed last time they came too. I don't know if they've tie-dyed in Germany, but they just love to do it, so we did that. This month we're having an Austrian chef come after school on November 18th. He's going to teach us how to make apple strudel in German, and when we don't understand the directions, he will say it in English. December, we're having like an international holiday because the holidays are all on different times in France and Mexico and Germany. They'll all be different, so we're having just one holiday party. Also in December, there is a Christmas market downtown that some of you might have gone to. It's a very popular thing, and they sell different German little ornaments and trinkets and such. So we're gonna go down there. And in February, we're gonna have a movie night. And we don't know the movie yet. We have to get it approved and everything. But I remember freshman year we did this, and a lot of people showed up, and it was really fun. We had popcorn, and we had it in German with English subtitles. And then I think that's pretty much it. That's our layout so far. We might add a few more events, but that
Very
is
busy.
the club this year.
Cool.
Some fun stuff.
Thank you guys for fundraising.
Next year, could you schedule the chef the night of the board meeting, and then you can...
Yeah, just right here.
How many students in the club?
I think there's over 30 right now.
Oh, that's
Wow.
great.
Nice,
Excellent.
good, good.
I could see why you'd appreciate having your own club as opposed to being part of a larger group, 30 of you. Excellent. And you meet, how often did you say?
Like once a month
Once a month?
is our events, and then sometimes we have meetings in the morning.
Okay,
Very cool.
great.
Do you have any kind of outreach to people from Germany in the who live in the community or of German descent?
We do not, but once or every 2 years we do have German exchange students. We have like a sister school sort of out there.
Okay.
And we do German exchange, so for 3 weeks they come here, and then we go there.
So there were actually some students from North High that went this year?
They go this summer,
Okay,
but I think they left it like 2-3 weeks ago, but they were here for 3 weeks.
okay. And then our students go there in the summertime, is
This
what you're saying?
summer,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
What fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you.
have fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
We're gonna hand it off to the Spanish club now.
Give them equal time. Is that it?
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola.
Me llamo Yesenia. Hello, good evening. My name is Yesenia. I am one of the officers that is part of DGN Spanish Club, and this is Hisha Kumar, who's also an officer with me. So yeah, I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about Spanish Club and what we do and how we interact with the students. So this is the team, el equipo. Joshua Bodenheimer is the teacher who's in charge of us. Like, he's there supervising, making sure we're, up to school regulations and whatnot. Justin Fortes, who could not be here tonight because of work. He is a senior and he's also part of the club. He's also an officer. Marissa Bonamici, who's also a senior, also part of the club. Hisha Kumar, here with me, and I, Yesenia Barrera. Yesenia, Justin, and Marissa were actually part of the original 6 that started the club, that tried to pick it up. Last year, as you heard from Trevor, we started with World Language Club, which was the 3 languages all put together combined. But like he had said, it was a little hard trying to put in events for all 3 languages, well, all 3 cultures, let's say, and trying to mix it all up. And it was a little hard with so many people, and just organization was just a little hard. So this year we decided to split it up into Spanish, French, and German. And we are part of the Spanish team. Our mission this year is to increase student exposure to the culture of Spanish-speaking people in the United States. I, being Mexican myself, find this as a great opportunity to share a little bit about my culture to the people around our school and around the community. So I have so much fun just sharing a little bit about myself and my family. So it's very fun. And a big thing that we like to point out is that all students are encouraged to join regardless of their proficiency of the language. So even students who don't speak Spanish, they're all welcome to come, just because it's just a fabulous thing to learn about, and there's so much to learn. So it's nice to include everybody. And with all the events that we have, you don't have to speak Spanish. I mean, you don't have to speak Spanish to eat a taco, right? Okay, I'm just going to pass it over to Hisha. All right.
Good evening, everyone. So here's a list of the Spanish Club events. Just like the German Club, we try to keep the events pretty spaced out. So we try to keep it 1 a month, so that students are not overwhelmed with so many activities that they're involved in, and they can all make it to each event. It's because we want more people to show up and be more interested, and that has actually turned out really successful. We get emails and people come up asking me when's the next Spanish Club meeting? They're so interested, they want the next meeting to come up. So we have the Spanish food and film, and we watch a movie, and just like the German Club, we have some food, and it's a Spanish movie with English subtitles. And something new we're doing this year is we're trying to do a school supply drive with the inner city schools that are less fortunate, and we're trying to fundraise things and help them out. And that we were planning to do towards the Christmas time, because it's a time to give and share. So, and just like last year, we did the Latina dance night, which turned out really good. And this year, we're doing the Spanish cooking lesson too. So, all of these events, everyone show up. There's a large number of people, and we get shocked each time about the number of people that come in, and they're so enthusiastic and excited. So it turns out really good. So this year, this actually happened last week. We all decorated Las Calaveras. They're sugar skulls. We got props, and all of us sat down and did it. And the school was nice enough that we got a chance to show it to every single person. So everyone in the main entrance, it was there, and everyone who walked in could see it. And it definitely gave me, I'm not Hispanic or Mexican or anything as such. I moved here from India just 4 years ago, so I had nothing, no idea. And it was a great exposure for me. And it really taught me about Dia de los Muertos. So it definitely, helped with other people, too.
Wow.
These are some pictures of people creating the calaveras that happened last week. Oh, sorry. And we also had a fundraiser. This was about a month or so ago. Everyone who would purchase anything at Culver's we would get a part of their expense towards the club. And we actually raised about, I think it was $425. So it was really good.
It's a lot of food.
And this is, last year we had a live mariachi band come in and play for us. and one of our most like popular contests was the taco eating contest. We definitely had a great show out for that one.
How many tacos was that?
Yeah.
Too many to count.
Oh, new moves.
The biggest event is during Christmas we have a world language dinner, and people bring in, it's something like a potluck party. Everyone brings in a food they made, and it was really interesting. Like many people tried Indian food for the first time that I took and went, and I even got like a prize and stuff, and many people were like really excited. So that was a good shot. And who doesn't like food? I mean, everyone comes in.
Yeah.
And to stay connected, we use the social websites like Twitter, we have Instagram and things, so everyone's updated. We have emails sending out. We even have an RSVP option on the email, so we know how many people are going to come in for each meeting and event and such. And that's about it.
Any
Wow.
questions?
You said you started with 6 people?
Yes.
Right, and then how many do you have now?
Well, let's see.
Is it still?
I believe 3 of the 6 that were there were actually seniors.
Oh,
So
they're-
they had left. But like he said, she's new to the club and she came and added on to us. So right now we have just solid 4 now, right?
Yeah.
You're getting a lot done with 4 people, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and actually a lot of that like we owe to Mr. Bodenheimer, who's
Yeah.
been really enthusiastic about all this, and he's been just pushing us forward. He just really does have a passion like to be helping the kids and like pushing them towards learning Spanish and actually any language. And
great.
it's just very nice to have a person like him leading us and giving us a good example to follow.
I'd like to just commend you because I think, we should celebrate diversity, and I think we do a good job of celebrating diversity. And I really commend you on the fact that you're not just learning a language, but you're learning a lot about the culture
Right.
of the language and
Thank you.
bringing that to the other students. And I agree with Julia. For 4 students, man, you get a lot of work
Sure
done.
do.
We've got a few projects we'd like you to
I was
work
just going to say, you want to come to my house?
Having a lot of fun, too, it sounds like.
Yeah, it
So-
does. It
we
sounds
always
like
have
fun.
a ton of fun. Like he was saying, usually at our meetings when we have like a lot of food, at the potluck dinner actually that we had, kids brought in food like from their different cultures from everywhere that they're from, where
That's
their family has
great.
come from, and we have contests to see which food gets finished the fastest or who likes what food better. And he showed, like she said, she was one of the people who received one of those awards. I remember her food. I don't remember what it was called, but it was delicious.
And you said that a lot of other students who aren't even in the club are coming to your events?
Yes,
Just
definitely.
out of interest, and so good for you.
That's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, this year we actually had a ton of underclassmen come, so a lot of freshmen and sophomores.
Good.
This year, I believe we had about 75 people order T-shirts, and not everybody ordered T-shirts, so it was pretty exciting
That's
to see that number
wonderful.
grow.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for
very
having
much.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all your support. It's definitely encouraged us to do better and like come together every month to make these events and execute them in a good, successful way. Thank you.
You weren't paid to say that, were you?
No, I was.
Just checking.
Bodenheimer
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. And buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Buenas noches.
Buenos
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Dr. McDonald, Common Core.
Who wants to follow that presentation?
Good luck.
Yes, we have a Common Core presentation.
Pressure is on.
Of course it is. Obviously, as the board is aware, the Common Core, implementing a Common Core standards curriculum, we are required to implement this curriculum, but that does not mean it's an easy thing to do. It's a very challenging thing to do, both from the standpoint of the teachers who are developing the courses and then teaching them, the students who are involved in them directly, and all those who are trying to work out all the details of them. And so I thought it'd be a very good thing to give the board a brief about where we are at after the first quarter. I think we are making progress. I think our students are progressing. It's not easy, but it's getting done. And we have 2 groups of people here to present tonight. One group is going to present on the mathematics curriculum because that in itself is a special entity, and then the English and language arts, which involves several people because that's really an integration of English and language arts standards across a number of different disciplines. So last time I got in trouble for deciding who was first. Is this time you deciding who's first?
I'm first.
All right, then you're first, Mr. Cardy.
Thank you. Okay, as Dr. McDonald said, we're going to share with you tonight where we are with Common Core right now and what we're continuing to work on. I know that we made a presentation last year about Common Core. Want to share with you what we've done with the entire faculty late last year in April, and then as well in August for our 2 August Institute days. So last year in April, we did what we called the Common Core rollout, and we had a communication committee that Jill was part of, and we created a presentation that was for the entire faculty, North and South together, as well as a video, which I linked, so you can see that in the future. It was a great video that Jill worked on for a long time, and with the help of John Waite and about 30 other individuals speaking on that video as well. What we did that day was share our approach to the Common Core because in some ways our approach is unique. As Dr. McDonald said, we are integrating the English language arts standards across the curriculum. And so we explained that to the faculty and what the goal and the reasons behind that, what our mission is. And we also looked at both the math habits of mind and the science and engineering standards, which are part of the next generation science standards. We also organized into 25 different multidisciplinary groups. Each group was led by 2 individuals, faculty members, and worked on a number of scenarios so that teachers could see the difference before Common Core and as a result of this integrated approach. In August, we followed that up with an update on the work that had been done this summer, and there was a substantial amount of work done in District 99 over the summer on Common Core. And you'll learn a little bit more about the rubrics, but we went through a multidisciplinary group again. We had 24 groups in August and went through a rubric session, which included a video and information about rubrics, sharing of the rubrics, some departmental processing time. And then on the second day of the August Institute Days, August 27th, teachers were able to choose from 8 different breakout sessions, approximately an hour in length, and each teacher attended 2. The purpose of the August Institute Days was obviously to share what had been done over the summer and what was going to be done this year. So as you can see, we were able to accomplish our goals. 97% of our faculty reported that they were comfortable using the rubrics in class. They understood the expectations and how they could apply those rubrics in their particular content area. 95% reported that it was valuable information that they learned on those 2 days and that they had a greater understanding of our focus in District 99. And then I just shared a few of the anecdotal comments that were made on the survey as well. All faculty was expected to take the survey and respond to a number of questions. I just picked out a few highlights. And as you can see, some of them said it was the best professional development they experienced in District 99, that they felt like the breakout sessions, because they were led by teachers, about approximately 1/5 of our teachers were actually involved with planning and executing the 2 days of the August Institute. So about 20% of our teachers were involved in some capacity with leading this institute. And the breakout sessions were very positive. Teachers believe they know how to use the rubrics and they can use the rubrics, and we're using those rubrics across the curriculum. So that's where we were as of August 27th. Now I will hand it over to Mr. Stevenson. Talk about that.
So I'm Paul Stevenson, the chairman of the math department at South High School.
John Heldman, math department chair at North High.
So thank you for this opportunity to come and kind of give you a quick update as to how things are going in mathematics this year. I have to say, first of all, that after years of planning, it's really very exciting to be implementing this curriculum as we're implementing the first Common Core courses in mathematics this year, and to be part of that has been very rewarding thus far. The 2 courses for this year that we are implementing are the Foundations for Math 1 class. That's for students that are not really prepared to step into the high school Math 1 course. They're having a certain amount of deficiencies because of what's happened to them in previous schooling, and so that's a class where we're bringing them up to level with the expectation that then sophomore year they would be able to step into the Math 1 course. And then for most of our freshmen who are at grade level, they are in Math 1. This is the first of 3 proposed integrated math courses. Very exciting changes. It is stretching both the students' thinking as well as that of the teachers as they implement the curriculum, along with the habits of mind. We have a much greater emphasis on reading and comprehension in those classes, and that's been very evident over this first quarter, the changes that have taken place as far as that. And it's been really cool to see the students' growth in problem-solving abilities even in the first two months of the school year.
I think it's important to share as well the variety of supports that are going on through the support of the board over the past month or so. And just as a reminder, what we're looking at is a more rigorous curriculum through K-12. Roughly 35 to 45% of what we used to know as Algebra 1 and geometry is now being covered or being asked to be covered in grades 6 through 8. And brand new topics or topics at a deeper level are being asked to be covered within grades 9 through 11. So we have a variety of supports that have been implemented since the start of the school year. Our Math 1S course, which is an extended version of the Math 1 course, has been instrumental in allowing this to happen. Students that have demonstrated slower processing capacity, struggles with mathematics in their K-8 schooling, have been afforded the opportunity for a period and a half of instruction on a daily basis in mathematics. This is the same course, the same learning objectives, the same core assessments, the same definition of rigor as the Math 1 course. So unlike the past previous years where we've had a 200 and 300 level curriculum, we now have all students, all freshmen in Math 1 being exposed to the same level of rigor, and it's a more intense level of rigor, which is very exciting to us. And the period and a half on a daily basis allows the instructor to access those students for an additional amount of time and allows those students to be able to access their instructor for additional individualized and differentiated instruction. We also have a Common Core Assist resource taking place in both buildings. For those students that are in Math 1 but have found struggles with that course, or for those students in Foundations for Math 1, we have an additional half period of support, not with the same instructor, but with a certified math instructor nonetheless, that allows them to receive assistance in both of those courses, and those individuals are working closely in both buildings with the Math 1 team as well as Paul and myself to ensure that there's alignment in the support that they provide those students that may so need it once we've started the school year. At North, we're using a 3-week window where we assess all of the Math 1 and Foundations for Math 1 students every 3 weeks, and we determine based off of teacher recommendations as well as grade and assessment data the extent to which students may be recommended or placed into that program. So it really is an invaluable resource that allows us to provide additional support that students don't have necessarily automatically built into their schedule from day one.
A couple of other supports, the Math 1 PLCs. Both buildings have the PLC comprised of all the teachers that are teaching the course, and the ability that has provided for us to meet together on all of the late start days has been really instrumental in keeping that team on the same page. As we're implementing this curriculum, we're having to make lots of changes on the fly as we go because our students are not at the place that we want them or need them to be. And so being able to meet almost every other week as we have been has really been very helpful. And then additionally, both buildings have math instructional coaches. We certainly appreciate the support in that term as well. These are teachers who have one released period, and they've been, again, extremely helpful in supporting the teachers in their work primarily in terms of preparing and planning for the classes, getting some of the materials that are ready, and then supporting the teachers in their actual instruction. Something that John and I just don't have the time in our day to handle all of those duties, and it's been really, really very helpful to have that leadership sort of spread out amongst a group of teachers as opposed to just us two.
I think it's also important for the board to recognize and understand that Paul and I are Math 1 teachers ourselves, so we serve both as overseers of that PLC as well as teachers in the trenches, if you will, that are experiencing the same struggles that the rest of the teachers are experiencing, and our ability to balance that dual role has been critical in the first 11 weeks of the school year, and something that's been very meaningful and important for teachers and consequently for student learning as well. We just wanted to take a brief moment to remind everyone that the Common Core math standards have as their focus 8 habits of mind or mathematical practices that really are designed to serve as the foundation for all mathematics instruction. Problem solving, perseverance with word problems, the ability to construct an argument in words in math class, the ability to critique another's argument in math class are all foundations that are naturally incorporated into our new Common Core curriculum. And while skills remain equally important as they have been in the past, we are developing those skills through problem solving, critical thinking, and perseverance exercises, as opposed to first just teaching the skills in isolation without context, and then asking students to try to apply those. So in some sense, we've attempted to reverse the instructional methodology associated with mathematics instruction, and this has been a journey for us and will continue to be a journey for us, and we've learned quite a great deal as a result of the incorporation of the new courses.
And those habits of mind have been actually a focal point for us the last 2 years with our departments in preparation for the changes in the Common Core curriculum. Because before we made the curricular changes, we were trying to teach the teachers how to think differently about mathematics and how to implement those habits of mind into their classes with their current curriculums. And that is still ongoing as our traditional courses still exist in geometry and above. We are continuing to have teachers that are implementing those habits of mind into those courses using that existing curriculum. So the fact that someone is in a traditional course track does not mean that they are not getting the type of deeper understanding of mathematics that we're seeking through for all of our students through the Common Core curriculum.
That's a little bit of a snapshot of where we are now. We'd like to share for a couple minutes where we're headed. Common Core Math 2 is obviously at the forefront of our minds for implementation next year. We currently have a curriculum proposal in place for Math 2 for implementation next school year. And we've begun the work through workshop time during the school day for the development of Math 2. We have a team of teachers from each building. We have 4 math teachers and a science department rep from a cross-curricular perspective associated with this team. And under the facilitation of Paul and myself, we've begun to meet to develop the curriculum, which is guided by the PARC assessment and the standards that PARC sets out for us as the new testing mechanism that will be taking place next school year. And in addition to the curriculum, we're also developing common district level problem solving tasks that all students will be exposed to and responsible for, as well as a set of common assessment instruments of both skills and those habits of mind that we referenced earlier.
One of the things that is different with Math 2 is that we will be proposing to have an honors level for that class. That would sort of be analogous to the Geometry 400 class that we currently have. And so the Math 2 honors essentially would be replacing that class in the curriculum sequence. We currently do not have a Math 1 honors, and the reason for that was that we didn't previously have an Algebra 400. So again, kind of making that analogous transition from the algebra to the geometry and beyond. The other part of the curriculum proposal that we are working on is beginning to look at Math 3 and in particular, the courses that will follow Math 3. What skills will a student have coming out of Math 3? What does the course following Math 3 look like? Traditionally, a student coming out of our advanced algebra and trade classes would primarily go to pre-calculus, although we have other options for them now. What would those options look like coming out of Math 3? And then obviously to look at as well, how does that fit into AP course offerings in mathematics? So that's part of the work that we will be doing throughout the year this year with the same committee.
I think also it's important for the board and the community to realize that the existing level of AP options we have in the mathematics curriculum will continue to be in place in the future. We have no desire nor intent to reduce those particular options. What we're looking at is a restructuring of the curriculum and the location of content to make sure that students are prepared for those AP offerings and will be successful in those offerings. Communication between the math departments at both buildings and the parents, the students, the community, and you as the board, as we're here today, is one of our primary goals this year as we implement the first of 3 major curriculum or course changes. Paul and I worked together to develop a monthly Math 1 newsletter that is sent to parents of all Math 1 and 1S students throughout the district on a monthly basis. It incorporates some curriculum updates. We have a Student of the Month component where we recognize students for their achievement, as well as you heard here today with the Spanish and German clubs. Some suggestions for both students and parents as everyone transitions to this new way of thinking about mathematics and a focus on conceptual understanding. And so far we've received some very positive feedback regarding that newsletter as a means to keep parents and students informed. We also, in conjunction with Jill Browning and all the advice and assistance that she has provided, have been able to incorporate a piece within the District 99 News on a monthly basis thus far, and we anticipate doing that throughout the remainder of this school year to keep the community at large involved and informed with the work that's occurring. And that, again, is another mechanism that we want to be transparent with all stakeholders about what's happening and want to value the input that they have and any questions that they might have as a result of the experience. So we've received several parent correspondence as a result of both of those newsletters, and we've tried to be very proactive in terms of the implementation of Common Core Math in District 99.
And another vehicle that we're using in terms of communication, and again, we have to tip our hats to Jill Browning here and help in terms of helping us getting this accomplished, is on the district website we have the FAQ link, which has just gone live in the last several weeks, and providing another source of information. And also, this is interactive, so if someone who's there has a question, there's several different places and categories under which they can submit additional questions, which then John, Jill, and I talk through, and as we see fit, we'll put answers up appropriately to those questions as they are proposed. We also continue articulating with our feeder schools, most all of whom are teaching Math 1. And so we have been very open in sharing the Math 1 resources. Most of those schools are using the customized District 99 version of the Math 1 student workbook. We also have been sharing electronically through the Google Drives and so forth. The files that we're creating, they are keeping on top of exactly what we're doing. And so that is just an ongoing relationship that we continue to work at and strive towards building. And to that end, we are planning sometime during second quarter before the end of the semester to touch base with all of those feeder schools just to find out how things are going with Math 1, if there's any additional support that they need. Also in terms of the recommendation process as we start looking at that for next year, for the incoming class of freshmen, we will continue that articulation.
Lastly, in terms of our communication plan, we have networked with a few districts, District 117 being one in particular. District 117 decided to go integrated as well this fall. We networked with them in August, and we've been in communication with them on a fairly regular basis. District 117 is Antioch and Lakes High School up in northern Illinois, and they actually came to do a site visit at both North and South High School a couple weeks ago. They brought their department chairs and part of their Math 1 team to sort of observe what we were doing in our Math 1 classes, as well as have a dialogue regarding successes and struggles that we've encountered over the course of the first quarter. We look to reciprocate that visit in January or February by Paul and I and a few of our Math 1 teachers traveling to District 117 as well. And actually with the endorsement by the state of the integrated pathway this past August, the state of Illinois ISBE came out with a recommended integrated model for the high school level, something that we've been working on for a couple of years and have been trying to be proactive about. We've actually received some communiques from other districts as well too, through the Chicago Tribune articles that have been written about what District 99 is doing, or other networks that we belong to, asking how things are going and what suggestions we might have for them. So we're really beginning to develop a strong network of schools that are either integrated or considering going integrated, but definitely trying to encapsulate the essence of the Common Core that is called for within our new state standards. We're also working with the science departments in both buildings on collaboration on the science front. This is related to some of the STEM initiatives that are going on in our district right now, as well as the science department being interested in the experiences and journey that we've had, as well as the implications for our new math courses on science courses and potential prerequisites or changes in prerequisites to science courses. And we are also interested in what, prerequisites and information we might need to be including in the integrated courses that we offer to help support the science curriculum as well too. So it's really a two-way collaboration with the science department that's been going on. In conclusion, I think we just wanted to share what was going on now, what we have been doing, and what we hope to be doing in the near future. To thank the board, honestly, for the support that they have provided in this endeavor, and to remind everyone that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we are working diligently, both in the short term as well as long term, to ensure the greatest success possible for the students based on when they enter District 99 doors. So thank you.
I think we'll turn it over to the ELA team.
I think they did a pretty good job of following the students.
We're going to hold questions for
questions
at the very end.
Can we ask you a few questions? Hold it? Or?
Okay.
Just so they don't leave before we
Yeah,
get to ask their questions.
Don't worry, they're not leaving.
You lock the doors.
Well, good evening. Jill, Janice, and I are here. We're going to talk about the Common Core work that's been going on really since last fall, planning before that, but the work that's been going on with the staff since last fall relative to English language arts. So last year, during 2012-2013, the focus for the English language arts group was really the speaking and listening standards. So 6 of the chairs, really the social studies, science, and English chairs got together and really kind of started a movement, for lack of a better term, to figure out how are we going to, as Gina said, integrate this all over in all disciplines. So there are 6 standards, Common Core standards for grades 9 and 10 in speaking and listening in particular. And you can see there that they're really in 3 areas: presentation, discussion, and listening. So the first thing, they gathered a fairly large group of teachers together that represent all the different departments, because we needed, obviously, buy-in from all the staff. We needed to know about what this might look like across all the different disciplines. And they began the work of really unpacking those 6 standards. And if you've had a chance to look at some of those standards, some of them go on, and some of them have, 8, 10 commas in them, and you can really easily get lost on all the information that's in there. So they converted those standards to learning targets, which was no easy task, but it went very nicely with all of the assessment literacy work that has gone on over the years in the district. So they pulled those apart and tried to figure out, okay, if I look at this target, what are all the skills that a student needs in order to meet this standard, and what knowledge do they need, what dispositions do they need, what do they need in order to meet the standard. And they broke those 6 standards down into 68 learning targets. The learning targets are written in very student-friendly language so that when the teachers share them with the students, they know exactly what they're trying to hit, what they're working on, and it makes them much more easy to assess, both for the teacher to give feedback to the students and for the students to self-assess where they're at on the various targets. They first unpacked the targets, which took a long time. Then they went about the business of trying to figure out, okay, we can't leave it to chance when students are going to get taught the various skills and the pieces of information that they need. So when are we going to give direct instruction? In what classes, what departments, etc. So they determined where the skills and the knowledge would be taught, and then they went about the business of designing the rubrics. This work, and I know that's very small, but you all have it, was work that was extremely time-consuming. I think everyone involved, and Jill and Janice were very involved with this and will probably speak more to it, would say we know this is a work in progress. We've been inviting the teachers to give feedback as they're using them so that we can, refine them, make them more friendly, make them better. But that's that's the listening rubric, actually, that you're looking at there. And you see that down the left-hand side, you have the various criteria, and also they've noted the actual Common Core standard as well as the district learning target. And then, so the teacher and the students can reference that, and then going across the top, you see the different levels of command, what we're calling command or proficiency. From the left-hand side, the most distinguished, high level, over to the right-hand side, which on this one, I can't see it either, but I believe it says minimal command. So, and then, of course, descriptors inside of there of what that means so that the students know when they look at the rubric what that means, and the teacher also as well knows what that means. So we have heard from teachers really in all different parts of the building. As Gina already mentioned, the teachers first got to see these at the August Institute Days and really kind of start to digest them. They saw a lovely video with Jill that described how to use rubrics for giving students feedback and assessing, not necessarily assigning a grade. And then they had the opportunity to pick, like Gina said, on the breakout sessions, they could pick to do further study of using rubrics. And we are going to provide some of that as well as we continue to build on this into the future. So, teachers across the building are starting to use them. We encourage them that if you have an assignment that you're doing that doesn't fit the entire rubric, it's okay to pull out a couple of rows of the rubric and use just the parts that fit to the assignment or assessment that you're using. So teachers are doing that as well. And then finally, our English and Social Studies departments have I think just about finished giving baseline assessments to the freshmen and sophomores. So we currently, I think, possess data on all of them for where they're at in listening, discussion, and presentation. We are currently, some of it's already done, entering that into Teacher Access Center so that the teachers, just like they can pull up certain student test data, can pull this up and see, this is my freshman class, whichever class that might be, this is where my students are at. Maybe 40% of them are at, partial command, and 30% of them are at moderate command, and then they can use that to design instruction, to differentiate, break their kids into groups for instruction, even for assessment. So that's really the work that took place last year and then brought us to where we're at now. And Jill and Janice are going to talk about where we're at now, where we're going. Yep.
Good evening. I'm Jill Rose. I think I know most of you, Social Studies Department Chair at Downers North. So as we kind of talk a little bit more about the implementation this year with the rubrics, especially that Georgia was speaking about, we knew going into the school year that we really needed teachers to come in and be ready to use those rubrics and know like some tricks of the trade of how to use them and how to make them student friendly and teacher friendly. So we went into the August Institute really planning for this implementation. And so like a couple people have mentioned, there was a video that all teachers saw, and they were in multidisciplinary sessions when they saw that video. The video outlined the top 10 things you need to know about using the rubrics in your classroom. And so there was some big messages we wanted the teachers to receive from that video. And one was that to really shift their thinking about rubrics. So many of us think about rubrics as a way to give kids a grade at the end of a project or an essay. But we are really using these rubrics as part of the learning process more formatively, so students can really start to understand what is it if I'm in a discussion, what are the behaviors that I should be working on as a participant in that discussion. And so the criteria on the left of the rubric allow students to say, okay, well, if I'm in a discussion, there's some behaviors with respect and listening, there's some use of evidence, I have to actually prepare for that discussion. That's one of the rows of the discussion rubric is preparation. And so as a teacher, if I'm working on this discussion in my classroom, I can focus and hone students in on one of those pieces of criteria and really help them to understand the language of the rubric and what are those behaviors that we would be looking for with regards to that piece of criteria, and actually use the rubric as a teaching tool, not just a tool to give a grade at the end of the discussion or the presentation or the listening experience. So this video that we designed for the August Institute really tried to send that message. And then teachers went into these breakout sessions like Gina and Georgia mentioned, and the breakout sessions were designed for teachers to have some choice to pick the ones that would be most relevant to the work that they do, but to kind of focus on implementing these Common Core standards in speaking and listening. So there were sessions on how to instruct discussion. So many of us in English and social studies especially, but in all disciplines, you hear teachers say, well, we had a discussion on such and such topic. Well, have we ever really taught students how to have a discussion? So we had a breakout session on giving instruction on discussion. We had a breakout session on technology to use in presentations, technological tools that students can use in presentations. We had just a general rubrics 101 breakout session because for some teachers, they haven't ever used rubrics before. Maybe they're in a discipline that isn't heavy on rubrics, and so now we're asking all teachers to use pieces or parts of these rubrics, and so the comfort level was different with everybody. So we had quite a few staff members just come to the Rubrics 101 session and learn a little bit about how to use rubrics as an instructional tool, not just a tool to give a grade. So that was August Institute, and we did, Gina showed you the data earlier that we felt very successful, that those big messages got through. And then we, of course, had to do that follow-up, and that's what we've been working on the first quarter of the school year here. In all of our department meetings, department chairs have been providing opportunities for teachers to share ideas, to talk about, okay, so if this is the science department, how can we incorporate some of the speaking and listening in our classroom? If this is the social studies department, what does this look like in social studies? And so I know in our department, we've spent a lot of our department time having teachers share ideas and instructional strategies that they're using. And our first department meeting, I had some teachers share some things about questioning, because students have to write their own questions and prepare their own questions for a discussion. And, I had teachers come up, that was the best department meeting we've ever had, because teachers are excited about this, and they're excited about sharing ideas and actually getting into the classroom and implementing some of these things. So that's been some work that's been going on in department meetings, I think, throughout the building. And then we've also had an exciting opportunity at both buildings. We've formed interdisciplinary PLCs this year, And so they look different, slightly different in each building. I know the one at North, we have the freshman global connections, so the freshman social studies students and the English 1 teachers together. So the global connections and English 1 teachers are in an interdisciplinary PLC, and the same thing at the sophomore level. And we're talking about things like common language we want to use with students when we're talking about reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We are looking at the speaking and listening rubrics, and we're working on that inter-rater reliability. Anytime you use a rubric, we want to try to, the whole point of this was for us to kind of hold students all to the same standards. So we want to be interpreting those rubrics in the same way. So we have some plans to be looking at some videos of discussions and then kind of grading them and talking with each other about, oh, how would you score it on the rubric, and what are you looking for, and kind of to be on the same page across the grade level. And we also are going to look at that assessment data that Georgia was just referring to say, okay, well, now that we have some data on our current students, what is it telling us about the students we teach in both English 1 and Global Connections, or in English 2 and U.S. History, and how can we work together as English and Social Studies teachers to meet those needs now that we have some data that's telling us sort of where those students are at. So that's an exciting opportunity, and we've heard really positive things from teachers about the fact that, you know, we've waited years to be able to just talk to my colleagues in the English department or the social studies department. We've always had to do that sort of informally, so to have a formal place to do that is exciting. And sort of moving on also, as we look at implementation, our assessment literacy coaches in our buildings have been instrumental in helping with the implementation of the speaking and listening standards, especially with the use of the rubrics across the disciplines. I fortunately wear that hat as well, and I'm one of our assessment literacy coaches. So this has been fascinating to watch sort of our vision start to really become a reality. When we talked about this over a year ago, and we said we really want to take this integrated approach, and we want all the disciplines to be working together with literacy, because we all do speaking and listening, we all read, we all ask our students to write. And I'll just share one example to sort of highlight for you, you know, what's really happening out there in the buildings. One of the departments that I work with is the PE Health and Driver's Ed department. So I coach quite a few teachers at North High in that department. And to see what our PE Health and Driver's Ed teachers are doing, you know, you don't think, when you're Common Core, you don't think PE Health Driver's Ed. And they are doing great work to implement some of these standards in their classrooms. And there are things that they've always done. And for example, in Driver's Ed, they've always had some guest speakers come in and talk with their students. They've always had students do presentations about different topics in their classroom portion of the course. So they came to me and they said, okay, Jill, well, we know now you have this listening rubric and you have this presentation rubric, and we want to support these standards. So my job as assessment literacy coach is to sit down with them, talk to them a little bit, have them tell me about what it is they're doing in their classroom, and help them figure out which rows of that rubric they can actually use with their students. And so for the presentations that their students are doing in Driver's Ed, they're actually assessing them using a couple of the rows of the presentation rubric, and they're using the listening template and rubric when their guest speaker comes in to talk to them about driving, and they have a couple of different guest speakers that come in throughout the course of the year. And so I helped them sort of figure out how this could meet their needs, and they could still reinforce the standards in their classrooms. So kids are seeing this language even in Driver's Ed and health. PE, I thought, was a neat example. The one teacher that I was working with decided that they have their students lead warm-ups in class. And so they've always been graded on this part of leading warm-ups in class. But instead of now, part of what they give their student feedback on is their actual presentation skills. So are they speaking loud enough? Are they making eye contact? Are they demonstrating the exercise in the way that they should? And they're using our presentation rubric to do that in the PE classroom. So that's been neat to see, and I think it sends a really strong message to our students about this idea of speaking and listening, because the whole point of these Common Core standards be college and career ready. And so if kids only think these standards have to do with English and social studies class, and that's the only time you're really held accountable for discussing and interacting and presenting in this way, then that's not quite what we're getting at. But if they can see, I need to be paying attention to my discussion skills or my presentation skills anywhere I go, including driver's ed, I think the message starts to get out that, okay, beyond these walls of the high school, these are important behaviors I want to learn. These are important skills that I want to acquire. So I think we're definitely starting to move towards that vision that we had with this integrated interdisciplinary approach. As department chairs, we're seeing a lot of teachers working really hard to try this. We're asking teachers to do a lot of new things and to jump in with 2 feet and just give it a go. And we're really seeing that in our formal and our informal observations. I've seen a handful of discussion and presentation rubrics being used just in my own department. And I know Janice has sort of the building bird's eye view, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing across the building in our formal and informal observations as well.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I would absolutely echo what Jill said. We are seeing teachers embrace these speaking and listening standards more so than we had even hoped that they would do. And I see that as I go in across all of the curriculum. I get to go into a lot of the classes, and I see the teachers using the targets in their daily lessons. I see students self-assessing. I've talked to several teachers where they will give, for example, the discussion rubric and give them the strong command, which is what we want students to get to by the end of their sophomore year, and have them just kind of keep a log and self-assess every time they have a discussion. Which of the targets did they meet? Which ones do they still need to work on? And then set goals for next time, and then go back and self-assess those goals, which is really helpful because it's helping our students be metacognitive and figure out what they know and don't know, and that's the way that they will learn. So we've been very excited about that. Just by chance, I was talking to a science teacher, and I asked him, how are things going? Are you able to use these rubrics at all in your class? And he shared that he was using the presentation rubric a lot, and that he teaches both honors students and a co-taught freshman or sophomore, I forget which level it was, class. And he said that the rubric was great for both of those classes because it was general enough that the descriptors fit the science content, but it was specific enough that he could give them the feedback. And the students, because it was written in student-friendly language, at all of those levels could understand it and use it. But what he was most excited about was when he first pulled it out, he had kind of counted on spending some time in class to go over the rubric before their first presentation. And as soon as he pulled out the rubric, students said, we did this in English. And right away, all he had to do then was remind them of a few things, ask them to share what they learned from it, and then he gained some instructional time back, which was what we were hoping for. So it was wonderful for the students to make that connection. And as Jill said, if they see that happening in all of their classes, they're going to see the importance of those skills, not just for that class, but as life skills. So we're very excited about that. And so then just to kind of look at what are we doing for professional development and supporting our teachers moving forward. Several teachers expressed an interest in attending more of the professional development sessions that we offered in August. They only had an opportunity to choose 2, but I think we offered 8. And so we are offering 3 of the more popular choices the first round, but we anticipate we'll probably end up offering some of the others as well. Providing instruction on discussion, providing instruction on listening. And I just want to clarify that because I think a lot of times when people think of the listening rubric, they think of like the old test like I took when I was in high school, like following directions or, do you listen to everything? But it's really about evaluating the speaker and thinking about credibility and their strength of argument and their bias and all of those things, which are really important, and it's actually a very tough skill. So a lot of teachers have not had their own instruction on that, and they're not really sure how to teach that. So that's a professional development session we will be offering. And then as Jill said, our goal is that we all have similar expectations for our students. And so we need to do some inter-rater reliability sessions, and so we'll be doing evaluating discussions. So those are the sessions that we're offering in early December. And then our next step is converting rubric scores to a grade. So as Jill mentioned and Georgia mentioned as well, we've been mostly doing formative assessments. So teachers are using them in their classroom, but they are providing students feedback without assigning a grade. And that's best practice in assessment literacy. So that's a good thing. But we are dedicating a lot of class time to this. So we also eventually need to include these skills in their grade. And it's a little bit problematic because rubrics are standards-based, and we don't have a standards-based report card. We give a quantitative grade. So it's not an easy task. we decided that we probably need to do some examples for our teachers so that they were giving accurate grades. So we have 3 of our department chairs, Jill Rose, and then Chris Bronke, who's the English department chair at North High, and Eric Bourne, who's the English department chair at South High. They each are creating a sort of conversion chart that will take the discussion rubric and turn it into a grade for a student. So the teachers can see how they would do that. And then they will do different things. So for example, one of them will weight one of the rows a little bit more because let's say a teacher has spent a lot of time on follow-up questions, so they might want to emphasize that a little bit more than another category. So we'll show teachers how to do that. So Georgia at South High and I at North High will go to department meetings in December and January and share those models with our teachers and just kind of give them a brief overview of what to, how to do their own and some things to avoid doing as they're converting rubrics to grades. And then because we thought some teachers that will be all that they need, but other teachers might still be a little bit stuck on this, we have asked the 3 chairs who created the models to also create a screencast that captures their thinking as they created this conversion. And that way the teachers who need to can go back on their own time and watch the screencast and get that additional professional development. And we do have teachers who are kind of all over in terms of their experience. So this will help those teachers who are new to rubrics. And then finally, we're going to continue with our assessment literacy coaching, of course. We anticipate that as we start to roll out the rubrics converting to a grade, more teachers will have questions about that. And so we're very fortunate to have assessment literacy coaches in both buildings who can help with that. And we are also working on our 11th and 12th grade speaking and listening. So actually, Georgia and Gina and I are leading a small group of teachers who were on our committee last year to take a look at the 11th and 12th grade learning target, or the standards actually, and then add learning targets. And the nice thing is they're not much different. There's a little bit increased rigor there, but we're really only adding about 2 learning targets to each standard. And then we are taking a look at our rubrics, and we're actually in the process of doing that. We started at our last meeting, and we will finish in December to see if we need to change our rubrics at all. Are there some additional criteria that we need to add? Do we need to up the rigor at all? Because we want to make sure that our students are prepared all the way through high school. So we're working on that right now. And then our 6 chairs that Georgia had mentioned earlier are now working on the writing standards. And that was kind of interesting. As someone now, this time I'm a little bit more in the back seat in my new role. And so kind of watching that. And it was very interesting to see the teachers' attitude when they walked in the door. We weren't sure how they were going to feel. They're asked to miss a lot of class time to do this. And, they hate missing their classes, quite honestly. They were so positive walking in, and they were just ready to go. And a lot of them said it was because they saw what was happening with the speaking and listening standards, and they wanted to be part of that. So we felt very validated about our approach and very excited about where we are going with that. So we will follow the same process. The only thing that will be different is that Park actually has a writing rubric, whereas they did not have a speaking and listening rubric. It's not very student friendly. It's not very teacher friendly, for that matter. So we're going to take a look at that and see how we can turn that into something that District 99 can use. Students aren't going to see the Park writing rubric anyway, so as long as we make sure that we get them to that level, we can use a rubric that is a little bit more friendly for our students so they can understand it. So we'll be working sort of backwards from that. So it'll be something new. And then just kind of overall, our next steps, we'll continue to use our department meetings for updates on things that are happening. We anticipate that in April at our Institute Days, we will have a partial rollout, so we're not going to need to dedicate the entire April Institute Day to a Common Core update, but there will be some things that we will need to share. And then we are continuing to survey our teachers, both formally and informally, about what their professional growth needs are so that we can meet them this year and next year. And our science department chairs are working very hard with their teachers, looking at the next gen science standards and what approach they might take, both looking at what math has done and then looking at other schools. And of course, we have already started on our August 2014 Institute Day agenda planning. So our professional growth committee already met and started thinking about what we're doing for next year. So that's where we are. And I think we have time for questions.
Lots of questions.
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't see, and something I'd like you to speak to, is where are we at in the reading aspect of Common Core? A lot of speaking and listening and writing, but where are we at with the reading component?
Okay. We actually made a concerted decision to hold off on reading because we felt like that was our strongest area. We have our literacy coaching, we have reading across the curriculum. The English department, actually before I came, finished a complete revision of their curriculum to make it reading based. So when we were doing a needs assessment, reading we were pretty comfortable with. And so that will come after writing. So we kind of looked at what do we need, where are our students right now, because we couldn't tackle it all at once. So that will be next.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have several. Go ahead.
Oh, well, talk about a paradigm shift. I mean, I really commend you guys because this is just a whole huge throwing out the old and bringing in the new. But knowledge and behavior are two very different things, and my question is, for those people who did not easily adopt these changes, how have you kind of helped them along, and how are you determining that people are really at least using things like rubrics or other techniques and keeping track of how well they're doing, or where they need a little coaxing or a little help?
I think, I can speak for our department, and I think a lot of departments, a lot of the time we're spending in our PLCs and our departments is focused on sharing ideas, looking at student examples of things that we're doing in our classrooms, looking at different ways we're using the rubrics. Teachers have created different templates, like Janice was talking about the self-assessment tools the teachers are creating. So it's organic in some ways, in that as colleagues are sharing with each other, then I'm hearing them talk about, oh, I tried this that so-and-so shared at the department meeting. So there's a little bit of that going on. We're visiting classrooms like we always have in the past, formally and informally. And I have to tell you that more times than not, when I'm going in formally, they're doing something with one of these rubrics. It's connected to something that they're doing. And informally, we're having a lot of conversations just about, oh, I tried this, I tried that. And I think using some workshop time over the summer to get teachers prepared, we looked at, so here are some templates that you can use. It's not just, here's a rubric and go do it. We created some templates for the listening, like if you're going to have students listen to something, here's a template they could use that they could fill out as they're listening, and then that could be aligned to the rubric. We looked at discussion structures and identified, what are 3 to 5 discussion structures that would make sense to use in a social studies classroom or an English classroom, so that you can plop the content into the structure. No matter what content you're having students discuss, the structure will work. So I think providing those supports is part of what's helping teachers to sort of jump in and get going with it. But we haven't had teachers pushing back. They've been excited to give things a try. I've had some teachers, who have given some of these things a try in their formal observations and said things to me like, I've never done this lesson before, it's brand new. And that's exciting that they're doing that for a formal observation and something related to the standards or the rubric. And they're admitting, this is brand new, but I really want to try this, I really want your feedback. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of the chairs are meeting with their teachers also one-on-one. I know this spring I have a kind of a Common Core touch base meeting with every teacher. And I've just asked them to please plan for that meeting and bring a couple of things that they have implemented this year that they thought worked really, really well, and a couple things that they're struggling with. And then for me as a chair, I can see what are the exemplars that we want to share with everybody, and what are the things that as a department we might need to kind of problem solve together that we're struggling with. So those are some of the things, from our department's perspective, but I think as I talk with my department chair colleagues, that's sort of what's happening across the board.
Well, and I think maybe Paul or John should speak to this as well, because it was a big change in math. English and social studies and some of the other subject areas, it wasn't as big of a change, but maybe one of you would.
I think it's important to realize that for the past 2 years, even though we didn't change any curriculum, we've been trying to, support and change teacher behavior, celebrate the fact that they're willing to try new, more complex, richer problem-solving experiences. I think Paul and I have tried to foster an attitude of temporary failure is an option, to be perfectly honest, because of the magnitude of the change and that we're in this together, and I'm in this with you both as a supervisor, as a department chair, but also a teacher of the course. I know Paul and I try to touch base with every one of our Math 1 and Foundations teachers in between those PLC meetings at least once, so that they're feeling validated and supported in the manner that they're trying to implement the curriculum. But it's certainly is one of those things where we are trying to embrace the willingness to change in hopes that in the long term that will result in the actual positive change. So it's an honesty and respect level with the teachers that lets them know that we're not looking for perfection 1, 2, 9, 20 weeks into the school year necessarily, and that we'll be in this together. And the experiences that we've gained, we're already applying not just to how we're going to do that lesson next year, but how we're going to do the next lesson in the sequence of our instruction.
I did have a question with regard, and maybe both disciplines can answer, with regard to the whole teacher evaluation thing that's coming down from the state and et cetera. And I'm happy to hear that we're not really putting these poor teachers' feet to the fire while they're learning these new skills. But is that how will all of the new evaluation systems impact this new approach to things? Is there a way of describing it?
The Danielson framework which was most recently updated, her most recent framework actually was updated with Common Core in mind. So some of the expectations just embedded in her framework, if you're implementing the standards, helps you to meet her standards.
And that's all being imparted to the staff, to the teaching staff, so that they're feeling okay with it?
Yes, and that's part of the professional development that we're trying to offer. And then also the support, the assessment literacy coaching, the PLCs and all of those things. And, I think John's message was very important to our teachers. And we tell our students that all the time. Confusion is the place of learning. If you're not confused, you're not learning. And so our teachers are kind of putting themselves out there also and trying some things out. But I think because they see everybody else doing it too, it's not as threatening to them.
Were there other questions? I had a couple more.
I have one more.
I have one too.
Go ahead.
I have a question about the Common Core math. Since there's now a group of students that will be learning Math 1 in 8th grade, how much, I don't think they've started yet because they're probably still doing the Math B component, but how much work do you plan with those feeder districts to make sure that what you're teaching in Math 1, they're also teaching to that 8th grade population, so when those students come in, they would be taking Math 2, and they would be equal footing or almost the same, or actually have the same as somebody who took Math 1 as a freshman.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's two parts to the answer to that question. One of them is through the sharing of materials that we have done with the feeder schools. They are very aware of what we are doing, and they're trying as best they can to teach a course that is equivalent to what we teach in District 99, much as they've done with algebra and geometry in the past. Obviously, this year, there are challenges that they're facing with that group of students. That's much the same as the challenges that we're facing in our Math 1 class in District 99, because we have students coming as freshmen who are very ill prepared for this class, but we're not at the level of the foundation student. And so, they're struggling. We are also struggling with our students. The Math 1 that we are teaching students this year is probably not the Math 1 that you'll see in 2 or 3 years, because everyone is going to be much better prepared for it. So, those changes are going to occur much as the way that they're changing the junior highs. So having said all of that, the second part of it is, in Math 2 for next year, we're understanding that just like Math 1 this year, kids are going to be coming from a lot of different places, and they're going to have many different experiences, and that will probably be our roughest year of Math 2. And so, we are planning to accommodate kids who are coming from a junior high who's done their best at teaching the content of Math 1 and prepare them just like the students in District 99, coming from Math 1 are not going to be maybe at the place we would like them to be ideally.
I think it's also important to remind the board that we had representatives from almost every public feeder school as well as some private schools on our Math 1 Common Core Planning Committee, which met during the duration of last school year. So we had individuals that both had input into what Math 1 looked like in District 99 this year, as well as the reciprocity of building their understanding of what we were going to be doing in Math 1. And so while feeder schools continue to be in different places, we have a common understanding now that this is what Math 1 represents, and this is the expectations that we have for students entering into Math 2 as well.
I saw on the slides that you had planned some meetings. Do you think those meetings you could relate what you are seeing already as good or bad and relate that, say, here's what we're seeing, here's what you can maybe expect as you start teaching that subject?
Absolutely. We have quarter 1 grade data that we're going to disseminate by feeder school based on the placement of those students compared to the feeder school that they were in last year. We also have been keeping track in our PLC meetings at both buildings, sort of a running tally of those things that have surprised us that we thought we were going to be okay but maybe weren't, or things that we anticipated were going to be problems and were or weren't. So we have a lot of both hard and soft data, if you will, after only a quarter's time to be able to disseminate to the feeder schools, and the timeliness of that is critical because at the end of January or end of December, beginning of January is when our feeder school colleagues are going to be making recommendations initially for placement next fall. So we're going to be sharing all of that.
Do you see even a shifting of resources, maybe from now the focus was Math 1 to maybe a little bit more of a shift where we're going to help those students at Math 2 also with some of those extra programs that we
I think it will, the Math 1 focus will continue, but the Math 2 focus will become more prevalent. And that's for both our feeder schools as well as our students as well too. Whatever we feel like we've learned and that Paul and I plan to share and provide professional development in with our Math 2 teachers leading into next year will be the types of things that even this fall as well as the spring we can share with our feeder schools as well.
Thank you.
I think also I would just add in terms of that last question that we are planning a lot of the same supports for Math 2 that we are for Math 1. So part of our proposal is that there will be a Math 2S course for students that need that. Part of the proposal that we put forth originally for the coaches was that role would expand as we have more Common Core math classes. So there are a lot of things that we are taking into account as we have more courses in the district.
I had a question too about the whole integrated approach, which seems very exciting. How many other schools in, say, DuPage are using the integrated? I've heard that there's a real variety out there.
Are you talking math, or are you talking ELA, or are you talking both?
Well, both, actually. I'd like to hear that from both, because I know everybody here is excited about integrated.
Well, I know Gina's been part of a committee that's been talking about that a little bit, but we keep finding out more that are.
Okay.
So, for example, Lamont High School is, Joliet has gone that direction. So there are more schools that are going that route, and there's probably more that we don't know of. In terms of immediate schools around us, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of that.
But the feeder districts are, right?
It's not a case for elementary because up through 8th grade, there's not a choice between the the traditional curriculum and
Got
the
it.
integrated curriculum. But our feeder districts have gone to doing Math 1 as opposed to teaching algebra in
Right.
8th grade.
So
So
that's a
they
step
have made that transition,
in that
absolutely.
direction.
I think also the definition of integrated is important as well, too, because we're integrated within Math 1. For example, the study of algebra topics allows us to go deeper in the realm of geometry and statistics within that course than we've ever done before. But the true power of integrated, as Paul and I see it, and his research has shown it internationally, is within course to course. That the foundation that students develop in algebra, geometry, and statistics in Math 1 can be built upon in a deeper and more conceptual manner in Math 2 and Math 3. So I would predict that in addition to the benefits within Math 1, we will see even greater benefits of that approach as we move throughout our journey.
And I would also add at the state level, we have a list of about 15 to 20 high schools that have gone in, or that are working on an integrated approach or considering an integrated approach. And the state is really supporting the integrated approach, as you heard with
They
the model
said, yes,
curriculum. We also will be asking, although they may run out of the room when I say this, but I did warn them before, to have others come in and actually visit our school, other than the districts that have come out, and to have our teachers on panels about the integrated approach, specifically at the NCLB conference in February. We are also working on 3 different parts of the state where we will be presenting. They will be asked soon about presenting locally.
shall
I
read
didn't get to
nameless.
that yet. But District 99 is a district that's being looked at because of our approach to mathematics.
Very cool.
And, you know, for the ELA, I'll just clarify that there is a whole separate set of standards for, it's called Social Studies, Science, and Other Technical Subjects. And other schools are looking at those, some in greater depth than others, but no one that we know of through either of our professional organizations or through the science organization has embraced it like we have across disciplines and actually involved the departments from the ground up. And I think that's why we have the buy-in, because this all came from the teachers. And I would also just kind of like to do a little shout out to math, because one of their new practices is to discuss math problems. And so in talking with Paul, he said, do you have any teachers from your department that are good at leading discussions? And so one of the English teachers actually went in and observed 4 or 5 of the math teachers giving instruction and provided feedback on the discussion that was happening to each of those teachers so that they could enrich the discussions that were happening in their class. So even though we're like separating it with math and ELA, we're having that cross-curricular combination too, which has been
You
great.
used your set of rubrics? They did.
I don't think they have yet, but that might come. Yeah.
Interesting, thank you.
And we heard about how the articulation has been going with math, and I think there's a lot of focus, obviously, with that. How is that going with English language arts?
Right.
That articulation with our feeder districts?
I probably can talk about that the best. We involved the English teachers last year at our English articulation meeting. Chris Bronke and I met with all the feeder school department leaders, and so they were they knew exactly what we were doing. We have actually had several follow-up meetings with them as well. We've shared some materials. They're kind of all over the place in that. Some schools are leading the way in certain areas, but nobody is all the way implemented the Common Core ELA. So we continue to reach out to them through our various departments, because that seems to be the easiest way, and then sending out through like our principals breakfast and things like that, where the principals will come and talk to us. But we are communicating with them as much as we can, and we actually have we have invited our district feeder schools to sit on our committee that's writing the targets. We had some that were involved last year for speaking and listening, and we had a little bit more interest this time for writing. We also, by the way, have some local librarians on our committee this year too, because they wanted to be involved.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Any last questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
That comment about confusion being a place of learning.
I love that.
I think we can all agree we've learned a lot here on the school board.
We've heard
This is a place
tonight.
of confusion sometimes. So, anyhow, I like that one. I wrote it down. Any issue with students having some confusion over the rubric conversion to grade? Do you think that's an issue?
I don't so far. I haven't heard that students are confused about that. The whole thing is communicating upfront. So students, most of our teachers, like Janice said, are using the rubrics right now formatively. They're not even assigning points to anything or grades to anything with the rubrics. You saw across the top, there are no numbers anywhere on the rubric, but eventually as teachers near the end of a quarter or a semester and want to start including some of this in a grade, that's what we're working on with teachers right now. And quite honestly, that's when a lot of the teachers are coming to see me as assessment literacy coach. And I'm helping them figure out, okay, how do you want to convert this rubric score to a grade? First of all, what is an A? Where are students in your 9th grade class in September expected to be distinguished on this rubric that's for grades 9 and 10? Well, no, probably not. So an A in your mind is where on that rubric? And so then we go from there and we start figuring out, okay, so your expectation for an A work is at this spot on the rubric, and then I show them how to create their conversion into a grade, and not to get into the details and bore you to death with that. And so then they create an actual clear conversion chart for their students. That gets put right on the rubric they're going to use. So students know in advance, if I perform at this point on the rubric, it's an A. If I perform at this average level of performance on the rubric, it's a B. And so that's right on the rubric for students. So I think as long as teachers are making that conversion clear to students in advance, then their students are definitely not confused. Some of the learning is coming on the teacher side as they're coming and saying, okay, how do I do this? How do I use this rubric for different levels of students in different grades, 9th, 10th, that kind of thing. And so that's where we're working on the screencasts, and Janice and Georgia are going to be visiting the departments and showing some models. And that's where it's really great to have the assessment literacy coaches, because honestly, sitting down one-on-one with teachers has been terrific. You just have to show them how to do it usually one time, and then they're good to go.
Excellent. Well, I've actually had some personal experience with this as a parent so far. So I just,
sometimes when the rubric, they add up the points and divide, and you're like, why are they getting a C? And they're doing pretty well, and their grade is turning out to a C. That can I'm sure that's probably something along the lines of what may have happened. So if teachers don't understand exactly how to convert that rubric score, they can end up, if they just rely on adding it up and dividing by the total points on a rubric, they can end up with a distorted grade. So we don't want that to happen to kids.
True, but...
And that was actually one of the things that we put on the video in August, too. So right from the beginning, we've been hammering that message, like how to properly use a rubric. And a rubric is not about adding up the points. And it's a rubric. The purpose of a rubric is to describe a level of performance. And then because we don't have a standards-based grade book, now we need to convert that level of performance to communicate a grade. So we've really hammered that message home, and I think most teachers know it now. They know not to add up points and divide by total points on a rubric. They just sometimes need help knowing how to convert, and that's where they come get the help then.
I'm just excited because what I'm hearing here, I'm experiencing too. So it's and I can tell you it's happening. It's good.
Good.
I really love the idea of just capitalizing on every moment of instruction that hearing that the driver's ed teachers are incorporating and just we're every moment. And as a student too, you go from one class to the next, and you have different teaching styles, and to experience this consistency across the curriculum makes me as a student, have more confidence in what I'm doing, and just be able to excel at a higher level, which is the goal here. So this is really exciting, and knowing that the PLCs have been so useful too for both departments is just fantastic to hear. The habits of mind integration is just outstanding. Is there anything similar to that in the ELA approach? I know that this is the habits of mind are coming from Common Core directly with math, but there isn't anything.
Science.
There is in science.
Science there will be.
There's science and engineering practices.
All right. And the website is just outstanding. Yes. About Common Core, and I'm jumping around here, but I'm trying to go quickly because I don't want this to run late. But it really is outstanding, and I'm wondering, have we had quite a few inquiries as a result of that, and have you had the opportunity to have this interaction with people asking questions?
only had 5 questions come in.
So far? Okay.
Right at the beginning, and
Okay.
it's tapered off. So.
We just
grades come out.
actually Friday and today sent out our most recent newsletter to the parents of the Math 1 group, and that was the first place where that frequently asked question page was really highlighted to the people that are in Math 1. So they'd seen it before through some of the emailings we sent out to various other groups. So it'll be curious to see, because when we first put it out to the staff, that's when we kind of got a burst of them, and now we'll see if they're reading our newsletters or not.
Well, it's a great place for people to go, and I know we as board members, I'm sure we've all had parents approach us with concerns and questions about the Common Core implementation, especially in math, and that is, I couldn't, it answers every question you could possibly have, I think, and then to know that you can just click right there. I mean, I've kind of gone through it, and I mean, it's really, it's like, wow, this is exactly what our community needs. So I hope that information gets dispersed to the public, and because there's been a lot of things in the media about concerns about Common Core implementation, and it hasn't all been very positive, I have to say. And after listening to this presentation tonight, I would think that if to be anywhere else, I can imagine being anywhere else. This is the place to be. 97% positive, teachers being comfortable using the rubrics. That's really great to hear, because one of the challenges with implementation of the Common Core, I know, is will our teachers be able to teach in this way, and how comfortable will they be? And so this is, I think, demonstrates that we're on the way there. Can we talk a little bit, just for a moment, about articulation, not from middle school to high school, but from high school to college? I know that there's some concern with a lot of parents know that colleges today expect calculus. With some schools, calculus being a requirement for admission. Knowing that calculus doesn't exist anymore in that traditional sense as a standalone class, no, and on a Common Core or once we get to Math 3 or 4, then we could go into a calculus class that college folks are expecting. Then is that
we certainly anticipate AP Calculus to continue to exist.
Yeah.
The question is the progression of skills and the coursework that it takes to get there, and that's what we're working on right now in terms of our long-term plan. As we stated earlier, we believe every door that is currently open to students in terms of reaching calculus by the time they are seniors in high school will continue to remain open. We're also exploring the options of, if it's feasible, to widen that door, or door frame, if you will, as well. So going off of our existing knowledge of the AP program, the College Board curriculum that is out there and that we anticipate in the short-term future, we see calculus as a course in the future. We see it as an attainable course for the same percentage of students that currently attain that level of coursework in mathematics in District 99. And we're exploring the feasibility of continuing to grow that attainability to the greatest extent possible.
Yeah, so the message here is that that there's even greater opportunity afforded, hopefully by virtue of the way we're teaching our Common Core mathematics, which I think is
we feel that the
great message.
Conceptual understanding and the habits of mind work that is the underpinnings of our new Common Core math courses will prepare just as many students, if not potentially a few more, in the long term for that opportunity.
Which is, that's just great to hear, fantastic to hear. And I did hear earlier with regard to the middle school, this is once again with math, we heard that most of the feeder schools are in alignment with what we're doing. Is somebody not in alignment? I have to ask.
I think with all of the public schools, they're in alignment. It would be some of the private schools that we have, they have not made changes in reference to Common Core. But in terms of the public schools that are sending children to us, yes, they're all in alignment. They have all agreed to teach, Math 1 versus teaching algebra. So that's not a concern there. Even to the extent that Eisenhower, which sends a fairly small percentage of students to us, have taken their 8th grade class and have split them. And the 8th graders that are coming to South are getting Math 1, and the 8th graders that are going to Hinsdale are getting algebra. So we've gotten very good support in that regard.
Yeah.
I think the celebration community-wide is that you'd be hard-pressed to find another non-unit district that is as closely aligned this early in the process as we are in Common Core Math right now. If I could be so bold.
Thank you. Yeah, let's leave it on that. As far as I'm
That's a
concerned.
high note, that's right.
Great cooperation.
Yeah,
know,
that is great.
Just, I guess, I would assume I'm speaking for the board. We spent a lot of hours here doing the work of the board. But this is, I think, one of the most exciting things we've heard.
Yeah.
And I know that this represents, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of hours
Anybody
of work
clocked it? Oh.
that you've brought together and summarized for us in about an hour. But I think for everybody, I can only say, very well done. Thank you so much. You are an inspiration, and I think you make us all glad that we're here.
Yes,
I'll even do
As a
that.
parent, I'll say thank you.
We appreciate the support.
Thank you so much. Wow.
They make us look good, too.
Now let's see you follow that one.
Yeah, here you go, Mark.
Okay.
He's up to the challenge.
All right, and we, I
following the
know the
school
board
sign.
has an interest in making, or having brief presentations. We believe that this was important enough, so it needed to take all the time it needed.
Yes.
And I think the board certainly got out of it what we hoped in terms of understanding all the work and the ideas that have gone into this and the level that we're practicing. I believe it was last month the board directed the administration, after discussion about the signs, to come up with some renderings, basically including what the signs might look like, where they might be located. And we've done that, and we'd like to share that with you tonight. Certainly the grand plan is for Nancy and I to meet with the village manager and the mayor. I've met last week with the village manager, and I asked him to facilitate that meeting. And I've also contacted him by email and asked him to facilitate that meeting, and I will continue to contact him. And I'm sure that will be set up in due course. But we wanted to fulfill the direction from the board and show you these signs briefly. Of course, we didn't put these out to bid. We contacted a vendor, someone who does a lot of this work, and so the renderings are similar to what they certainly would look like. The product that we're showing you is, I would say, at the upper end. It's not the top end, but it's the upper end. And I think it's somewhat a get what you pay for. We do have because we have not replaced the sign itself that was destroyed in the 2011 tornado, we do have the ability to file a claim, and that would be as much as $30,000 to support this project. Next slide. And as we looked at this earlier, one of the reasons we brought a digital sign presentation to the board was we found there were a lot of quite a few advantages to a digital sign that weren't really part of the traditional signs that we have in place. And obviously, don't go so fast with the I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jim.
You didn't even have any coffee.
We obviously have a need for the signs, especially at the high schools, that are different from most other organizations in the community. We have announcements about what our students accomplish. We have calendar reminders. We invite people to events. We have frequent announcements or proclamations about successes our students have in athletic competitions. We have congratulatory messages, and these are probably very important and perhaps somewhat dismissed when we have weather-related issues and school closings. Those are very valuable to us. We have drills in progress, and we will during this year. We're going to have at one of our campuses a live shooter drill in association with the village and the other community organizations. We don't think we'll have students here, but we will have.
Okay.
We'll have some that are volunteers, but we won't have 3,000 in Downers Grove South. But we often have drills. We have fire trucks. We have police cars on our campus. We want to have a way to inform the public that this is a drill. This is not a crisis, because people are interested in that. And at least at South, that is a place where we have obligated our building, if there is a catastrophe in the community, that is a place where people would go and gather, and so it's worthwhile to us to have that ability to send out notifications. Okay, Jim. This is an example of one of the signs. This is at Hinsdale Central High School. Okay, Jim. Another, Naperville Central High School. These are not large by any means, but they do the job. They're people can see them from the cars as they're driving by or walking by. Now, Jim, I'll have Jim talk about the signs themselves, because he is the person who's actually worked with the vendor. So.
Okay, North High School, two-sided digital sign, pretty straightforward, using the existing base, the concrete pad and the brick, and putting the new sign on top of that. Also, just noted that the sign on your left, the new digital, would be slightly smaller than the one that's on the right.
That'll make them happy.
You said smaller.
Slightly smaller.
The proportions look, it's just a sketch, so. So you're saying that the black area where the digital would be actually smaller than what we're seeing in the white?
White area.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the entire sign too, from the grass all the way to the peak.
Okay.
How much smaller?
Shorter.
Not a lot, 6 inches.
Oh, 6 inches.
So it's really comparable, but slightly smaller.
Yeah.
Very good.
Accurate statement.
Okay.
At South High School, a little more to it. It's a two-sided digital sign also, but you'll need a new concrete base and a new brick base, along with a pole for electric down the middle. So this would be the same size as North High School.
The north sign it's already been roughed for the electric capability, just as I know we know that, but.
North High School already has electric. Obviously, South will probably be in a different location. We'll need to run electric to it. Just another note on both of these signs, there's radio transmitters that will, the software that will be in the building will transmit the radio off the building to the sign, and that's how you'll make statements and change messages.
Okay.
Our preferred location at South High School is the sign would be facing east and west on 63rd near Dunham. That's kind of the location.
Is that a tree right there?
That would be a tree, and there would have to be some trimming done in order for the sign to
Would it have to go?
I don't know necessarily if it has to go, but we'd have to trim it.
So the sign that is at the corner would remain, at least right now, that's what we're thinking, or would?
The two existing signs
say.
at South High School, we are considering to remove them. They
Okay.
are in violation.
Because they're in violation, okay.
So that would be pretty close to where that
Where the
location
corner
is
sign
right
is.
there.
And the other sign is, isn't it like halfway down the block?
Yes.
Correct.
I wouldn't want to remove that sign, though, if we don't have
I
to.
know, that's what I'm thinking,
Um,
that sign.
All right, any,
A gift to the school.
any, any reason why we wouldn't maybe duplicate the base design that was used at North? Just, I think,
It
with
pretty
the,
much,
with
if I
the,
go back,
yeah.
it pretty much is
It pretty-
duplication. If
yeah.
you look at the grass line, the concrete base underneath ground level is the only difference you're looking at. If you go back to this, it's pretty close to the same exact.
I'm just looking at the
corners?
chamfered edges on the brick at the base. I like that.
Yeah, I think this is just a rough drawing.
Okay.
It would be consistent to this.
I guess I'm kind of wondering, would that kind of go with the architecture that we have at South? Or would it be, I personally like the one at Naperville North.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I liked that kind
Sure.
of,
The curved,
well, yeah, it's a little more, I don't know, prairie style or whatever that we have at South.
South.
Well, we obviously have the capability to make any kind of design on the base that we would like. Specifically at South, with North having the base there, it would save some funding to
Sure.
not remove it and start over.
Oh, yeah.
But for South, we'd have many options that
Opportunity
we
to do
could
that.
choose from.
Because I'd like
We
to
should,
kind of,
yeah.
you know, go with the architecture.
I think it's a good
down the
idea.
road. Well, no,
Yeah,
I'm just asking, you know, if we're
As
married
Mark
to that. I mean,
noted earlier, there's many full-color display signs. The vendor and the company that makes the signs is willing to come out to give us a kind of a show of everything that we could possibly look into. Full-color display is really the way to go as far as I'm concerned. The monochrome, just if you look at Hinsdale's and Naperville's, those full colors are really nice and easy to read.
Easy to read.
But there are levels, especially monetary-wise, as, you know, you get to a higher full-color display, there are other ones we can look at that
I
we'd
would-
be satisfied with, perhaps.
I would like to see some of those things. I would also like to see those things, though, with some sort of rough budgetary,
Well,
you know,
sure.
just a cost range or something to
Sure.
give us some idea of
I
what
can
we're
get
looking
that.
at before we fall in love with something that we don't want to afford. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And do we have any sense for how much time is involved in man-hours going out, changing
Especially at South.
information on the signs that we currently have? Because certainly this would be a cost savings in that regard, right?
Well, it's a little problematic now because we haven't had a sign.
There's no sign.
Well,
I-
but I know
No,
what you're saying.
we did for several years, and we
Right.
do at North.
Right.
And so we must have some feeling for,
Well, there's two signs at North. There's a
That's
sign
right.
on the west end, and there's a sign on Main Street, and they're changed daily. I would say least amount of time that the individual spends out there is a half hour a day between the two signs. Obviously, in the inclement weather, it's a lot worse. Sometimes they have a hard time even opening it to get to the lettering it. So that would be a good guesstimate.
Do we have to have a cherry picker for the one at North High?
Yes,
And that's ours?
yes.
Yeah, I know, I've seen the truck drive underneath the one at
So,
South.
just the point being that there's, you know, as much as there's benefits in terms of communication with the community and all those wonderful things you listed there, from a practical, financial side of this, I mean,
Ongoing.
freeing up those hours for
That's right.
other uses, I think, would be a benefit to the district. So,
And to the taxpayers.
Our thinking, I think, the installing both would be around $100,000.
I think that's what we were looking at, that high-end option, yes, and it's net of the 30,000. It's actually like 120,000 in that
Oh,
range.
it's net.
For the two of them, so somewhere in between 90 to 100 for the full digit. They're about twice as expensive as a.
okay.
And that doesn't include the third one at
It's the two signs.
Well,
It's the two signs.
north.
And just to,
North and one at south.
just to clarify, that we're not looking at high-end signs, we're looking, we've got a range of things we're looking at, and this would be at the higher end of that range that we've chosen to look at, just a matter of a point of information. So, because there's certainly more
The sign
elaborate
itself would
things we can do.
cost
Yeah.
more given that location because the north sign already has electrical service.
Would be some
Right.
demolition and
Would-
also just a
Sure.
constructing a new
Service,
base.
or
Right.
install that, because that's going to be at a different location than it was previously.
But even if we didn't go with the digital sign, if we had to reinstall a sign at south, we'd have to put electrical service to light it, wouldn't we?
Correct.
That's correct.
Is there any thought to solar power? Is it practical?
I've not had that discussion with the vendor. I don't believe anyone has used it in an area that we
It could be
looked
cutting
at.
edge.
I know that to
I have no
switching
idea
from
if
the
it's practical.
sign that is currently at north to an LED digital sign would save much.
I was gonna say,
more
that's
energy.
that's the
Yeah,
kicker
that's
right
true.
there.
Not just
Right
man
there.
hours, you're saving in energy costs, and, they're constantly out there repairing.
Yeah.
They do break down.
Yeah, so the
Interesting.
LED uses
Would be
very little
huge,
energy.
right, and they last
and
forever.
Last for a long, so we're not, so not, apart from just the everyday going out, changing things, not having to go and change bulbs,
These light bulbs. right.
Even though they are CFLs, they're not as.
mhm.
Right.
We spent quite a bit of time talking about this previously, I know, and I don't want to rehash anything that we've talked about. All these are great comments, great presentation. This is
Appreciate
exactly
the
what
work you've done.
what I think we need, and
Go forward.
I think we should move forward.
Do we have any other questions? No. So what does that mean to move forward?
I'm taking that to mean that you and I will meet with the village manager and the mayor and bring this information to them and discuss where we're going next.
That's
I
up.
think the
I'm up for
important
that.
thing also is that there is not just a consensus, but unanimity amongst the board that this happened as well.
That's right.
I think that needs to be communicated from our perspective.
Yeah.
And our desire to want to work with the village on this.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep. Cool. Good work.
Nicely
Okay.
done.
Thank you, Mr. Colager.
IASD resolutions? Oh, excuse me,
What-
board member requests for future
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
agenda items.
She's not here to listen to her.
There's a board policy on this subject. When a board member, other than the board president, wishes to add an item to the agenda, there's a process. And we haven't used this process often, but we have used it once or twice. And it goes something like this, that the superintendent will send in a Friday mailing the board member's request and the rationale for that request, and I believe that was, I did accomplish that. And then at the next workshop meeting, the board member talks briefly about the rationale for putting the item on the agenda. And after that, it's not necessary to debate the board member about it, but simply to say, I think we should discuss this, or I think we should not discuss this. If four, well, the quorum tonight is still four?
Yeah.
Yes. Four people decide we'll discuss this, and I will put that on the agenda, either for,
Whenever you have time.
no, for the next business meeting or the next workshop meeting, whichever is most appropriate. So, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you. Well, just to restate what I think everybody hopefully saw in writing, I think that, I'll back up. Since I've joined this board, I have wanted to reduce fees as much as we can for parents and families, and I think that I think we've done an excellent job at controlling those and trying to keep things in line, and I fully accept that going forward, tough to do anything about those. Every year expenses go up. Every year we have more free and reduced lunch and fewer people paying those fees. And so even by not increasing fees, we see a reduction in fee revenue every year, and that's a hard line to hold. And I think we're doing a great job with that. So needing to look for alternative sources of revenue, and I know that our parents involved in our booster clubs, be it athletics or foreign language clubs, whatever it may be, trying to raise money to help offset the cost of things that they're doing and equipment, this sort of thing. I think that there's an opportunity for introducing corporate sponsorship for either for events, advertising and programs, underwriting the cost of scoreboards, banners, naming rights for events. I don't know. I see an opportunity here, and it's something that people have approached me about in the past, and I think it's something that we should consider doing in terms of figuring out what it is we're comfortable with, if anything at all. But it's a potential opportunity for us to bring in some more revenue and maybe reduce some of the burden that our parents are currently shouldering. And so I would like the board to discuss how we feel about it and whether or not we want to establish some sort of policy or instruct the administration to have some procedure about how we might implement this across the district, so to give some guidance for what we're comfortable with and what we're not. I mean, for one thing, I can see that having the type of corporate sponsorship might be an issue. Like, I would not be in favor of a soda manufacturer sponsoring something, for instance. So I think that it's, one, discussing whether or not we're comfortable with any level, and then two, discussing what level we think would be appropriate, and then working with our staff to further develop how we might implement such corporate sponsorship. So I ask for your support in putting this on a future agenda so we can have this discussion.
Recommend we ask each board member.
We ask each board member?
Yes.
Okay. Start with Mr. Pavanato.
I recommend we discuss at a further time.
I'm also in favor and have been ever since I became a member of the board, and have consistently asked, hey, what other opportunities are out there to try to defray costs? And I think this would be an opportune time to do that.
I'm willing to discuss it.
Yes, I'm willing to discuss.
And I am as well, so.
Thank you.
There you go.
Done deal.
Okay.
Okay, IASB resolutions. Deb is not here tonight. Should we just all, are there any resolutions anyone would like to discuss?
No, they were pretty straightforward.
I had two I had questions about, but I think I'll just address them to Deb.
Sure.
Just about the true intent.
We have another board meeting right before the...
No, after.
We don't.
No, it's before.
No, it's before. It's 18 tonight.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So we can still tell her how we want her to vote.
That's right. It's a week later. I keep thinking it's
Yeah, I
earlier.
know.
Okay, so let's move on to the reception of visitors. This is an opportunity for anybody to address the board on any subject. Hearing none, we're going to.
I think everybody left.
We're going to move into closed session if we have a motion, and this would be to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity.
I second.
Terry moves, Keith seconds.
Second after a 5-minute break.
Always.
Jared Pavasich?
Aye.
Keith Mattoon?
Aye.
Julie Beckman?
Aye.
Mike Davenport?
Aye.
Rick Pavanato?
Aye.
Nancy Kupka?
Aye. We'll be moving into closed session. We will not adjourn back into open session.
We will to close
We will.
the meeting.
But we won't
close the
take
meeting,
action.
But we will not have any
voting or
Right.
taking
voting.
won't take
Thank you.
Action.
No action.
So.
I'm taking my
Staying